Good afternoon and welcome to the Wrestling Report. My name's Stephen Fairbairn as always. Slightly different video that I'm doing today. I'm not doing an interview as I have on every other episode. What I'm doing today is I just like to do a quick, very short video. It's not going to be particularly long. A little tribute to John Cena. Now I appreciate it has been a couple of months now since John retired, and I am a little late to the party. Anybody who's watched my last couple of videos knows I don't have access to a studio currently. We are in the process of moving. Not 100% certain when I'm going to be in the new premises, but as it stands, I am currently shooting at home. Hence the layout I currently have. But you make do with what you have, and as it is, I'm still trying to put stuff out there. So yeah. As it is, bear with me, I've just got a few notes I'd like to go over. John Cena was born on the 23rd of April, 1977, under the name of John Felix Anthony Cena. He is from Massachusetts, Boston, Massachusetts, I believe. West Newbury, Massachusetts it is, in that case. Now, I'm going to go over a couple of quick early highlights in his career. I don't want to go over his entire career. This video will be 3 hours long, and I just have not... I don't want to do that. It's been done to death. Nobody wants to sit and listen to that again. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do on his early highlights in his career, and then I'm going to document his titles, how many he's won, and then just a little thank you at the end. So just bear with me on that. So as it is, John made his... obviously wanted to work as a wrestler when he was a young man. Anybody's seen footage and photos of him when he was a child, he had made paper belts and things. It was very, very sweet. And he wanted to be a wrestler most of his life. Now, he made his way to Ohio Valley Wrestling back when that was the developmental property for the WWF, as it was back then. Obviously way before NXT and all of that. But at the same time, still a fantastic job back in the day. That class that he was part of included the likes of, I believe, Randy Orton, Batista, and I think Brock Lesnar was part of that class as well. Anybody, if I'm wrong on that, please correct me in the comments. But yeah, John was part of, arguably the greatest developmental class of all time. Now, anybody who knows the importance of developmental wrestling will know, especially grassroots wrestling in terms of, the indies and whatnot. These are very important in the sense that these are potentially the future guys who will carry companies on their back for years to come, and John is definitely one of those guys. He is an icon in wrestling. He's an icon. Non-wrestling fans know who John Cena is. Obviously, he has transitioned into television and movies and whatnot, but everybody knows who John Cena is. There's arguably the only wrestler who's more famous than John Cena is probably The Rock, and even then I would argue a lot of people nowadays perhaps don't even know The Rock was a wrestler because his career was very brief. Or very short in terms of his full-time in-ring career, which a lot of people don't know. But again, that's a video for another time. We'll do John Cena today. Now, as it is, he made an unofficial TV debut, an unofficial non-televised debut, in what's known as a dark match on the October the 10th, 2000 SmackDown, and he wrestled as his OVW name, The Prototype. And obviously that didn't go out. That was, one of the first times I'm guessing he wrestled in a crowd of that size. Would have been considerably bigger than what he was wrestling in front of an OVW, and by all accounts handled himself very well. Now, I have to confess, I couldn't find a lot of great footage of that match. There are bits and snippets online, but I didn't think it was important that I needed to follow that up. It was his first big step up into the big leagues, if there is such a thing. Now, following on from this, he made a number of appearances in dark matches and apparently handled himself very well, to the point that eventually they made it clear and made the decision to call him up to the main roster, of which, is the start of one hell of a career. Now, it's a career with a lot of ups and downs. I'm going to touch on them slightly. As I say, I'm not going to go through his entire career. I simply don't want this to be a 3 or 4 hour video. It's just going to be a quick snippet, just a quick thank you. Now, he ended up making his official TV debut on the June 27th, 2002 episode of SmackDown, where he answered Kurt Angle's open challenge. Now, it's quite a famous thing where he came out, Kurt had said somebody from the back. He came out and cut the ruthless aggression promo and then slapped Kurt in the face. Now, that match turned out to be one hell of a banger of a match. He was a losing effort, as expected. It was Kurt Angle at the time, and John was just making his debut. But at the same time, he put in one hell of a performance. And anybody who's seen it knows how good it was. Now, following on from that, he was a regular on the main roster. This was where he was now. He went back to OVW for periods of time. I believe he wrestled as Mr. P. Now, anybody again, please correct me if I'm wrong in the comments, but I believe he did. Before, settling into his role as a full-time wrestler on the main roster. Now, at that time, he entered into a feud with Chris Jericho, of which he ended up having a pay-per-view match of that same year with Jericho at Vengeance in a victory. Now, what a first feud to go into. Chris Jericho, anybody who knows anything about this channel, I'm a huge Chris Jericho fan. I think he's a fantastic wrestler. He's a decent human being as well. I've had the pleasure to meet him, and he was fantastic to me. And I know other people might have different opinions, but none of my business. When I met him, he was fantastic. So Chris, shout out to you. But again, video for another day. I will definitely be doing a video on Chris Jericho at some point. But as it stands, this is about John Cena, so we'll move on. The following, in 2003, he entered into his first Royal Rumble match, first of many. Decent showing, and he was eliminated by The Undertaker. Obviously, he was never going to win that match. You don't get wrestlers making their debut and then winning the Rumble straight away. It just doesn't happen anymore. It may have happened in the past, but as it is, that was never going to happen. But at the same time, it was the first taste of that match, and again, decent showing. He had a decent run out following that in his career, and he turned heel on Billy Kidman, I believe, which led to the creation, rather, of one of his most famous gimmicks, which was the Doctor of Thugonomics gimmick, which was like a rapper where he would come out and cut, scathing promos in freestyle rap on his opponents. Now, anybody who knows anything about Cena, and I've done a bit of research for this, I've got to confess, it's just more of me going to be gushing about, just a tribute rather than, every single detail of his career. But he was not doing great on the main roster in the sense that he wasn't really, putting butts in seats, as it were, until I believe they were on a European tour, and he was heard by Stephanie McMahon freestyle rapping, and he then was encouraged to incorporate that into his character, and he became the Doctor of Thugonomics, which was, I think, ran for a couple of years. Anybody who's seen those early promos know that man didn't give a shit. He did and said whatever he wanted. It was great, really great fun, excellent stuff. The crowd started really latching on him, and he ended up obviously inevitably turning face, where he would be face pretty much continuously following that until he wasn't. But yeah, anybody who's seen that knows how good that was. It was great, and it led into obviously various title wins where he won the US title early on in his career. I believe he beat the Big Show at WrestleMania 20 following an elimination in the previous Rumble that January, which he would then, trade back and forth. I think he lost it to a couple of people, to a guy, maybe Carlito, and then won it back. But anyway, not important. Following the final loss of the US title, when he had a number of matches with Booker T, sorry, just to go back there, which were fantastic best of 5 series, I believe it was. Following his final loss of the US title, which I think may have been to Carlito, he then moved into the world title picture. Inevitably, at this point, he was the biggest star, or at least on the rise, biggest star in the company, and there was no denying he was going to be the man going forward. And following on from that, he entered into the 2005 Royal Rumble, where, and this is probably the last big period of his career I'll touch on in depth, because I just want to move on and go through a few of his titles and follow this. But he entered into the 2005 Royal Rumble, and then following that, during that match, he was scheduled to be the second man in the ring at the end, and Batista was scheduled to win. Now, what happened is they went to the finish, or what was expected to be the finish, and Batista lifted John up for the power bomb, and they both fell over the ropes together. They lost their balance, they fell over the ropes together, which was not the plan. Well, what we've read was not the plan. And they fell out of the ring together and hit the ground perfectly, both at the same time, outside of the ring. There was no separating them. The finish to the Royal Rumble match is not going according to plan. Now, anybody who's seen this knows, following on from this, is where Vince makes his way to the ring, following the refs and outside staff the ringside staff trying to cover for the mistake. And they're raising John's hand, and they're raising Batista's hand, and you know, they're trying to cover it and say, this guy's the winner, this guy's the winner, and so on and so on. Vince makes his way into the ring, Vince McMahon. Obviously furious, obviously seething hot that the finish to his first big pay-per-view of the year has been screwed up. So he slides in the ring, bangs his legs off the ring apron as he's sliding in, blows both his quads. Anybody who's seen this image knows how funny it was. I felt bad for the guy because it must have been so painful. I've never injured myself in such a way, and touch wood, I hope I never do. But my God, that must have been so painful, especially when he tries to stand and can't. He's then sitting on his arse, you know, shouting and screaming at them. They restart the match. The chaos subsides and the finish goes ahead as planned. Batista wins, so on and so on. Now, following on from this, obviously John wasn't in the main event for Mania, so he wasn't in the world title picture, but, you know, they had the two titles where he was, you know, he went in for I believe it was the WWE title, and Batista went for the world heavyweight title against Triple H. But anyway, John went for the WWE title, and following that win, where I believe he beat JBL at Mania 21, he introduced the infamous of sadly famous spinner belt, which I think lasted for about 8 years. I hate that belt. I know everybody hates that belt, but he had spinner version of the US title previously as well, so it fit the gimmick, it fit what he was doing, but at the same time, nobody liked that. But yeah, I mean, obviously following on from this, John had a number of titles, you know, throughout this, and he did have some success in the Royal Rumble as well. He was the winner twice. He won it in 2008 and he won it in 2013. Obviously at this point, John was starting to transition into more film roles and television roles. He had done small roles here and there, and then he moved into obviously big main role that a lot of people know him for as Peacemaker, but that was much later. He started to wind down his career in 2017, where he was full-time, and he worked 2017 2024 on a very part-time basis, and then made that comeback where he announced his 1-year retirement tour, which was 24 to 25. Absolutely fantastic to a point. Now, I don't think it's controversial to say that the heel turn did not go according to plan. I think it was expected. I don't think it was the original plan. I think the original plan was Cody to go heel, and perhaps that was, you know, it wasn't the right time for Cody. I hope we do get to see that, because I think the heel Cody in modern wrestling would be fantastic. I'd love to see what he could do there. But anyway, John turned heel, aligned himself with The Rock, the final boss, went on, defeated Cody for the title at Mania, had a strange run with the title where obviously no Titantron other than the black screen with his name on, no interaction with the fans other than to insult them. I mean, at first the fans did boo him, but it was one of those things where I think he had gained so much love from the crowd over his career. Now, obviously, I know he was booed spectacularly a lot of his career, but at the same time, he'd hit that level now where he was a returning star that fans desperately wanted to see. So booing him just didn't seem right to them, and I agree with that. I think, to be honest, I'd have been happy if he stayed face his entire you know, retirement run. I don't think he needed the heel run at all, and I don't think it added anything other than a little footnote where people can say, maybe that wasn't the right thing. But at the same time, it happened, it was done. It's one hell of a talking point. I probably will do a video regarding his retirement tour, specifically around the heel run in the future, because I think it is such an interesting subject, and it's something that definitely needs more time than I'm going to give today on this video. But I mean, yeah, he retired under his own terms, which I think is a lot of wrestlers don't get. Some do, they definitely do, and he went out in the traditional way. I am a bit of a wrestling traditionalist in the sense I like reading about the history of it, and I like how the traditions, very few that exist these days, still exist. And generally the rule of thumb is if you go out into your final match, generally you go out looking at the lights, you lose. And he did that. And I'm not gonna lie, I thought the finish to the match was strange. However, John Cena's career, his whole career, or at least a lot of his mainstream career, was never give up. And he did. But he gave up in a way that was, it was up to him at that point. You know, yes, he was caught in Gunther's choke, and it is a star-making performance for Gunther. I mean, he's already a star, but you know, it was a star-making performance. He's got a hell of a run off the back of that. He's retired AJ Styles since, which is just wonderful. I think, you know, there's a real monster heel there, a real great heel in the company. But again, we're not here to discuss Gunther. I am going to do more wrestler biographies as I go through in the rest of this year, and he will definitely be one. But yeah, sorry, I'm rambling a bit here. Yeah, John's had one of those careers. I think it's so many ups and so many downs. A lot less downs, despite what you might hear from people. You know, I know a lot of people, a lot of fans will look back on John Cena's career and think, well, I was fed up with him for a period, or I was this, that, and the other. And I was one of them. I was, you know, there was periods of time where it was like, it was the meme, wasn't it? Lol, Cena wins. It was like the Nexus angle, for example, where Super Cena, beat the Nexus when I believe Edge and Chris Jericho had made the call that perhaps that shouldn't have happened. And I agree with that. But at the same time, it happened. There's nothing we can talk about, we can do about now. So we can other than discuss it. It's not something we really need to concern ourselves with, because it isn't going to change anything. But I did write a list of titles and accomplishments John has had in his career, and it's many. He was an OVW heavyweight champ. He was the OVW Southern Tag Champ, along with, and I apologize, I'm going to probably butcher this name, Rico Constantino. That was back in the day. He was voted Pro Wrestling Illustrated's Pro Wrestling 500 #1 in 2006, 2007, and 2013, which is, you know, if you concern yourself with such things, it's an honor. Pro Wrestling Illustrated is a very, very prestigious wrestling magazine and forum for people to share their thoughts. So I've got to be honest with you, that's an accomplishment you should definitely be proud of 3 times. You know, it's a big thing. Throughout his career, and I am not going to list who he won and lost them to, because again, that's a video for another time, or perhaps from another creator, because it ain't me. He was WWE champ 14 times, which is including his final run with the title, which when he defeated Cody and then lost it back to Cody. He was a world heavyweight champion 3 times. He was a single-time IC champ, Intercontinental champ. He was a 5-time US champ, so he won and lost that a number of times. He was a 2-time WWE tag champ with 2 different partners. He was tagged originally with The Miz, and then he was with David Otunga. I believe that was during the Nexus angle. The David Otunga one, at least. And then he was a world tag champ 2 times as well, with very prestigious partners, very high-level partners, both with Batista and HBK Shawn Michaels. He was a Money in the Bank winner once in 2012. As I said previously in the video, he was a Royal Rumble winner twice on both 2008 and 2013. He is officially recognised as the 35th Triple Crown winner and the 25th Grand Slam champion overall. He is an 11-time Slammy Award winner. Now, I've got to confess, I've never watched the Slammies. I really haven't. I don't know if they've ever been something I would look out for, but amongst WWE, and it is very much a WWE-owned award and this, that, and the other, but at the same time, there's a certain level of prestige attached to it. He won Match of the Year in 2013 and 2014. Again, I'm not certain which. 2013 was Mania versus The Rock. So that was Mania 29. So yeah, that was a good match. It was a great match. It's the once-in-a-lifetime match, which turned out to be not once in a lifetime, I believe. And 2014 was Team Cena versus Team Authority, which is the Survivor Series. So there you go, it was pretty good. He was voted Superstar of the Year in 2009, 2010, and 2012. And this one, which leads to what I was saying previously, it was the OMG moment of the year in 2025, which was his somewhat ill-fated heel turn on Cody Rhodes. So yeah, I mean, he's had one of those careers, and I'm just a guy sitting at home doing a video, rambling on a bit. And you can tell us it's probably a little incoherent, but you know, I don't care. It's just something I wanted to do. I've been a John Cena fan. I've been a John Cena hater. I am a John Cena fan now, and I will be forever. He's fantastic. He really is. He's great. And basically, there's no denying the man has had, I would argue, the greatest wrestling career of all time. He is an icon amongst wrestlers. He really is. You may love him, you may hate him. Plenty of people have said they love him, plenty of people said they hate him. I'm pretty certain he doesn't concern himself with such things. I don't know the man. I would love to have a sit down and a chat with him though. That's never going to happen, but you never know. But yeah, I mean, what can you say? The man has had legitimately the career of all careers. He's won everything, he's lost everything, he's memorable in every way, right and wrong. He ended his career on his terms. He did one hell of a retirement tour with a questionable heel turn. But in that time, in amongst that year and in amongst his entire career, he's had some of the most memorable matches of all time. And yeah, he may have heard on more than one occasion, you can't wrestle. Well, that's just simply not true. You don't have a career like John Cena has if you can't wrestle. He is absolutely fantastic. At times, he made me not want to watch, I'm not going to lie. But there were far, far fewer than I actually did tune in and was very much looking forward to watching. So to finish, thank you, John Cena, from everybody here at the Wrestling Report. There's a few people who work with me backstage and behind the scenes on things like this. Not today, I'm doing this all on my own. But yeah, thank you very much. It's been one hell of a career. Keep up the good work in Hollywood. I love the work you're doing there. Peacemaker is fantastic. Absolutely hilarious stuff. And don't do what most wrestlers do. Stay retired. You ended on your own terms. It was fantastic. Anyway, thanks for tuning in. Sorry if I've rambled a bit and a little bit incoherent. I kind of just did this on the fly, a few quick notes. But yeah, I've been Stephen Fairbairn. Cheers.